Hi everybody, it's Heather Summers here. I'm your senator from the 18th District, and I'm here today to give you an update of what's happening at the Capitol. We just finished a session in the Senate and we reaffirmed some judges, but I wanted to tell you what's been going on this week. In case you haven't heard, there's been a lot of stories about opening up our rest areas on 95 and some of the rest areas that you can't have commercial industry in. I have a proposed bill that says if we can't get them open with the funds that we can allocate here at the state of Connecticut, let's use volunteers through the chamber. There's nothing more unwelcoming than coming to Connecticut from Rhode Island late at night and seeing a big sign that says "Welcome to Connecticut" and an orange sign across the top that says "Closed." There are other bills in that would require the DOT to open the welcome centers. That's something that we tried last session. The money was allocated, but the DOT actually never followed through. So the combination of the two, let's use volunteers if we have to until we can get these open centers open. We want to be open, we want to be welcoming for tourists that are coming into our state. So Connecticut will not be the state where you have to use a porta potty, but it will be the state that you can go into a nice, clean rest facility and welcome you to our state and all it has to offer. That being said, I would like to talk about some of the tax increases that we're seeing here in the proposed budget and some bills that are coming out. One of them that you probably heard about is the cat tax. If you adopt a cat now, they want to charge you an extra $15 to register your cat. We think the dogs are actually behind that bill because dogs want to be adopted over cats. We've had a lot of pushback from animal activists saying that this will have a really deleterious effect on those who are trying to adopt animals here in the state of Connecticut. It already is expensive enough to take on the ownership of an animal. You know, when you adopt a cat, you may be doing it through an agency where you pay a fee and then you get a voucher to have your animal neutered or spayed. This would be on top of that. So again, it's another tax. We've also heard about taxes this week on junk food. And I have a good question, which I think there are many different answers to. What is classified as junk food? I have gotten so many different answers as far as what is junk food. One person said it's sugar. The other person said it's fat. There's all different views on what that is. And before we can put a tax on something, I think we really need to define what is junk food. Now, if you're going to tell me that sugar and fat are junk food, I'll just remind everybody that breast milk is considered both of those things. It's fat and it's sugar. So think about that when you think about junk food. We've also heard some increased taxes in what our local selectman from North Stonington said could be, quote, catastrophic for the town of North Stonington. And it doesn't go just to North Stonington. This is all the towns. I took to the first selectman in Stonington today, Rob Simmons, first selectman Mike Ergo, also John Burt, the town manager of Groton. And the tax that they're talking about here is the car tax. There is a bill in that said all the funds that are collected through car tax would go to the state of Connecticut. Then the state of Connecticut would redistribute those funds back to the towns. Now we know, we have history, what happens when the state of Connecticut grabs that money. It comes back the first year, the second year it's a percentage, and usually in year 3 or 4, it's not returned. This would be catastrophic for towns. What would happen then, for those of you that are listening, is the town would have nowhere to make up that difference. And for someone like Groton, we are approaching $6 million in car tax. That burden would be passed on to the property tax owner. So just think of that when you're looking at your property taxes. So we have junk food tax, we have property tax. Now we want to add tolls, which is really another tax. So if you think about it this way, you will be taxed when you drive to go to the grocery store, where you'll be taxed on your junk food. You will be taxed when you drive to the school that is now mandated to be regionalized. You will be taxed when you go get your hair cut, which is now taxable, or when you pick out your new cat, which is now taxable. So there are a lot of tax ideas floating here. And contrary to all these increases, I want to share with you a really good tax reform that was passed last year. It was when we were taxing boats at 6.35% in the state of Connecticut. Rhode Island, our neighbor, was taxing them at 0. And we saw tens of thousands of boat sales going to Rhode Island because you could just cross the border, buy your boat, and pay no tax. So last year we were able to roll back the tax on boats. We're not talking yachts, we're talking $20,000 or less. A middle-class family could enjoy time on the water And what happened is we were able to roll the tax back to 2.99% on boat sales. What we saw was increased revenue because more people were buying boats in the state of Connecticut rather than going to Rhode Island. When you bought your boat here, you kept it here. You filled up your gas on your boat here in Connecticut. You went out to dinner here in Connecticut rather than a neighboring state that was taxing you at zero. In this year's budget, the governor has again taken that tax rate and put it back up to 6.35, where we were losing all those sales. That bill will be heard this Friday in the legislature, and I plan on testifying. Another one that you should think about is the new tax on cars. Right now, if you buy a car, everyone knows you pay tax on it. But when you trade your car in, you have the value of the car you're trading in, and you pay the difference between the new car and the car you're paying in tax. There's a bill in that says that will no longer be the case. You will be paying tax on the entire value. So you're being double taxed on car sales. I've talked to our automobile dealers. That would be the only tax of its kind in the nation, and it would devastate car sales. Car sales are a true indicator of economic vitality within a state. So think about those things when you're hearing about bills that we're considering up here in the legislature. Today, when I leave this, I'm going downstairs to a public hearing in public health. We have many, many bills on the agenda, but some of the controversial bills that we have that I'd like to have your input on are mandating vaccines. Two of the vaccines are the HPV vaccine, which is an STD, and meningococcal vaccine, which is something that is transmitted really in close quarters. You hear about with college kids. They want to mandate that everyone have those vaccines. Some of them are with or without parental consent. So I'd like to get your input. I've heard a lot from folks that say, no, we don't want to have anything mandated. We want to make sure that the parents have a decision in what vaccines our children are getting. So keep your eye out for some of the bills that are coming through public health. I'll try to keep you updated. As always, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information will be on the screen. Send me an email, give me a call. I will get back to you. And I hope that you enjoyed our update, and I will continue to keep you updates as we move through the process. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.